Welcome to the Once Upon an Island podcast. I'm your host, Wesley, and today I'm joined by my co-host,
Mary.
And Mary, we're talking about a very special season of Survivor. Special in the fact that when we went to watch it, I hadn't seen it since it first aired, so I remembered nothing.
Long time ago.
When the season first aired, where were you?
I have no idea.
You weren't watching the season live as it aired?
I did not watch Survivor until we were married.
Mary's a filthy casual. She's not filthy casual. But she didn't get into Survivor till way later, like when Millennials versus Gen X came out. So just for perspective for people listening. Today we're talking about Survivor Vanuatu. We're going to talk about everything that we can think of about the season. We're going to talk about characters we liked. We did ask for your guys' questions on my YouTube page. We got quite a few, so we'll try to hit every single question. I'm sure some of the things that people ask we'll probably naturally discuss along the way. A lot of questions are super focused on like what happens in like the final 4, final 5, final 6. Mm-hmm. So we'll end up in depth discussing that. So yeah, today we are here and we are primed and ready to go. I'm actually feeling a lot better after All-Stars. All-Stars, I just got done like working on All-Stars videos for like 3 months, and I'm just like, thank the Lord for a break, because not only is the season, I'm all starred out. After that season, like, not to get too much in All-Stars, but to give perspective, like the first 5 episodes I think are like really good, up through Richard Hatch going home, and then after that it just goes like downhill pretty quickly. Whereas this season, I feel like it's kind of the opposite trajectory. It starts like kind of like mundane, like it's pretty cool and stuff. But it really doesn't kick into gear until the merge. Right. But I do want to mention for anyone listening, there's going to be 5 story videos from this season. Currently, as we're recording this, they're being voted on, though I'm sure by the time this goes public on YouTube, the voting will be finished and people will have picked it. But all the videos will be early on Patreon. So all the story videos, any side videos to make about the season, stuff like that. Even this is going to be early on Patreon. But for those listening on YouTube, just know that I care about you still. It's not all about the patrons, but they do make this happen. So you guys are all in tandem. True. It's very, very true. Yeah. So I guess we don't have a specific order I want to go in. I just know we're going to do people's questions at the end. So was there anything in particular you wanted to talk about this season, Mary, first, before we, I don't know, get into the thick of it? Like, is there anything you want to talk about first?
Well, I did want to make sure we mentioned that I really liked Vanuatu. I liked the theme of this season a lot. A lot of the volcano shots, the volcano rewards.
The whole opening with Jeff.
Mm-hmm. The opening with Jeff was really, really cool.
He's on the volcano, and it's like, dude, he's on an active volcano, like not like a docile volcano that's just taking a tea break like Mary is with her tea right now as we talk. But it's the volcano's blowing up behind Jeff as he's doing his opening.
Exploding, yeah.
Literally exploding.
It was pretty cool.
It was pretty sweet. I wonder if it's the same volcano that Chris and Julie go on that reward at the final 5.
I'm pretty sure he said
you think it's the same one.
I'm pretty sure he said the name.
Because at that final 5, like they're at the volcano and it's active too.
It's
and
Mount
it's like
Yasser, right? Which is the name of one
Mount
of the
Yasser.
tribes.
Yeah, I don't know if, without rewatching the opening of Vanuatu, I'm not sure if he says he's standing on Mount Yasser, but I'm going to guess.
Very, very similar. And I would imagine that they would use that as much as possible.
I'm pretty sure he said there's 9 volcanoes in the islands of Vanuatu, and I'm sure that's probably the one that they know for a fact they can go to and get constant like explosions out of. So the setting of the season is so cool. And in the premiere episode, which by the way, fun fact, I learned was originally meant to be an hour and a half on television, but like a week before it aired, for some reason, I don't know why, they ended up having to cut it down to an hour. Maybe something else was airing that was just so important after Survivor. But so they had to quickly cut it down. So when they originally planned this, and you can feel it when you watch this premiere episode, because there's a huge opening section where like everyone's on a boat and the natives come out and Jeff's like, hey, just be respectful of their culture and what they're going to do, because they're probably gonna do stuff you're not comfortable with, but just stick with it. Which if that's coming from Jeff, he's not like out there like, hey guys, he's out there like, please be respectful. Yeah. So it's probably gonna be.
It was really
good.
Different. Mm-hmm.
It was, and it takes up like the first 15 minutes of the premiere, and you can really feel it on the back end. But it's such a cool opening can you explain, Mary, what happens when so Jeff says this is gonna happen. They all get on their boats. One dude hasn't learned how to swim until 6 weeks ago.
Right.
Bubba, I think, as we learned his nickname.
Did he mention that right at the beginning?
He did. Right at the beginning, he's like, I just learned how to swim 6 weeks ago, so they had to get another boat for me.
Oh yeah, because he fell out of the boat.
Yeah, he fell out of the boat.
So they all get in boats, these little boats. I think there's like 2 or 3 survivors per boat, and they start heading toward shore, and they are surrounded by hundreds of nationals. I don't know what Vanuatuan people.
Yeah, locals. We'll just call them.
Like just doing circles around their boats, and it's really, really cool. They do like a really far away shot, and it looks intimidating. I'm sure it was the point, but it was a really cool shot of them like being surrounded right in the middle of all these warrior type people. And then they get to the beach, and then all the men with their spears come rushing at them, yelling, and like a couple of them are like flinching and jumping back. A couple of the survivors, obviously, the cast. And so yeah, that was a really, really strange. I'm not even sure what the point of that was, but they were welcoming them to their island by yelling at them. And then they divided them up, men and women. You want me to tell the next part too?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So they divided them up in men versus women, and the men had like these nice seats and benches that they were sitting on.
They got to actually get seats.
Yeah, and the women were like sitting in the dirt. And then they told that they gave the men like this alcoholic drink that they all had to drink, which looked like mud, and they said it tasted like mud. And so they all had to drink that and then spit it out. Yeah. And then
so according to Chris, by the way, and I'm not sure how I feel about this. I'm sure this is what Chris really thinks, so I'm not going to doubt it. But in an interview with Chris, he did say that when they split them up men versus women, production wasn't planning on splitting them up men versus women. That's just how it happened. So that's how the tribes divide. But I'm going to say the production knew that the locals were going to split them up men versus women. So I'm not sure how much I buy.
Even if the locals
that
didn't.
The production just let this happen in terms of that's how they split the tribes. But either way, I'm on board with how this all starts, because it really gets the women like already anti-men, and the men already are like being favored, and they're like, were you going to explain what happens with the men next? Yeah, go for it.
So basically they offered them this spirit stone, which is like a good luck charm or whatever, and they said whoever could get the spirit stone from this top of this really tall pole,
and they like greased them in pig fat, didn't they?
I think they greased the pole.
Pole and pig fat.
They greased the pole and pig fat,
and it looks so like you pick the right.
It looked like Mulan, basically.
I could not have done it. Yeah, it was. Really think about that from the animated Mulan, not the new live action.
If you've seen the new live action.
It was not very good. But the anime one's fantastic. Yeah, when they're like doing the I'll make a man out of you, and she has to like strap a rope around and climb up it. Imagine that, but without the rope. There was no like rope or belt or whatever.
It wasn't like a smooth pole. It looked like just like an old tree that had its branches lopped off. It was very rough. Covered in pig fat. It looked like you get a bunch of splinters if you shimmied up it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, if the men succeeded, because only the men could try to get it. If the men succeeded in getting it,
I think it was only the man that the tribe person picked, the local picked. Could all the men try it?
All the men could have tried, yeah.
Oh, okay.
He came over and picked one of them.
He picked Brady, goes pre-merge, not a very big character for the season, but he picks Brady. And Brady does get up there in one shot.
It looks like the first try he gets up there and gets it. Yeah.
Oh, I think he does. Yeah. I think if he had actually struggled and fallen down, like that would have been shown, because it would have been extra drama.
True.
No, he gets up there the first time and gets that spirit stone, and it just looks like a rock.
Guys were all pumped about it. Yeah.
It's built up a lot. And it's going to be in the first 2 episodes a lot, but after that, just kind of like it's not mentioned again until the finale, where all of a sudden they're at some grave site and they're like, "Here's the spirit stone," which just looks like a rock. Right. So, anyways,
but if for some reason all of the men had failed, then the woman would have just got it.
Yeah, but I feel like between the 9 men, because this season has 18 people, which unlike all past newbie seasons, which have only had 16, I feel like, so here's what I'm thinking with this opening, because it's a really great opening, really sets the stage. The women are all riled up, not liking that the men are getting favored. The men are all riled up that they're together, except for a couple of them. I think Chris was like, I'd rather work with men than work with women, because women will snap your neck. You know, he's like, I can trick men. Because Chris is just over dramatic in like almost every confessional he does. It was so hard for me. Mary didn't know who won this season when we were watching. It's so hard for me not to like point out every time he was being like over dramatic confessionals, because I didn't want to put a spotlight on who was going to win the season. Mary also doesn't know the next few seasons of winners either, so that'll be fun.
I don't.
But I will point out, Mary, here's what I think. So Borneo, Australian Outback, Africa, Marquesas, Thailand, Amazon, none of them had like these like crazy openings where like something like this happens until we get to Pearl Islands where they drop them off in that local fishing village, as you saw, and they got to go do the thing and Rupert steals the shoes and it's like a classic scene. Nothing like that in All Stars either. They just drop them off at the beach. But I feel like Vanuatu's trying to recapture what that crazy opening they did in that was like so well received in Pearl Islands.
I could see that.
Especially if this was originally supposed to be an hour and a half premiere, because I don't think they would have done this knowing they only had an hour, because it does suck up so much airtime, but honestly, it's worth it at the end of the day. Because, and I'm not spoiling anything, but the next season, they definitely have another crazy opening that just like, it just sets the stage for the game. And I haven't rewatched Guatemala in quite a while, but I do know that Guatemala starts with them in the Mayan ruins, which is cool. And then they have them going like the super long trek. And there's another twist in there I'm not going to ruin for you yet, because I want you to see it when it happens. But so I've watched season 12 Exile Island, starts them on Exile Island, which is the introduction of the real Exile Island with like a huge skull on it and everything. And just like, there's one hidden immunity idol on this island. And it's like the only idol for the whole season, which is so funny in comparison to now.
Right.
So my point is that I feel like ever since Pearl Islands are trying to like do these like awesome openings. And I think this isn't better than Pearl Islands, but this is like a really cool opening set stage, because this is kind of how the season plays out in terms of like, unlike in the Amazon where it kind of like, once the tribe swap happens, the men versus women thing kind of like, it's fine, we'll all intermingle and be friends. This season, it doesn't really go like that.
No, it doesn't.
Men and women are not friends in this season. Like, they're friends, but they're not like working together.
Right.
Yeah. Because up through the merge, they never do a tribe swap. No, they do. They do a tribe swap. Yeah, they do, but it doesn't change
men
anything.
Versus women.
Yeah, well, a couple people try to like it's not like a straight up, like Rory somehow makes the merge even though he should have been gone. And Rory, by the way, I love Rory. I know Rory's a hot mess, but that's why I love Rory.
I know.
I guess just kind of briefly touch on men versus women, but the overall arc of the season is. Sorry, I just got done smoking 5 packs of cigarettes. Apparently, the men go into the merge down in numbers because they trusted Julie and Twyla to stay with them in the merge, and then Julie and Twyla don't stay with them. They turn on them, and the men just get decimated until it's just Chris, and then the women can't stop but not wanting. I don't know how to say this. They just need to destroy each other so much that they just like ignore Chris.
They imploded.
Yep. And Chris is just like
standing
there, letting it happen.
I really was surprised that Twyla didn't flip. I really thought she was probably swayed by Julie too much. And I'm sure we can talk about that, but
I think Twyla was going to flip for real at the merge until Julie. Yeah. And Julie is like under the radar, like good. Like not amazing, but good.
She's pretty good.
We have some questions at the end that are with Julie in mind. But yeah, I just want to so I'm going to go through the cast list, but I'm only going to go through people that I care about. And if there's somebody you want to mention, please. Okay. But I think the first person that comes up on here is Travis Sampson, aka Bubba, with the Bob Barker shirt that he was wearing. Because when he says build a bridge and get over it, I just instantly knew I had to use that line in the rest of my life. And I did the other day. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
We were at a meeting and I forgot. I said it and and a couple people thought it was really funny. And I'm like, finally.
Yeah. But then you gave credit to where credit was due.
I did. I didn't steal credit. This is true. But I thought he was funnily enough, he's from Johnson City, Tennessee.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't, I just looking at it right now. I didn't even know that. But he was like a fun pre-merge character.
He was.
I enjoyed him. He caused drama. He didn't know how to swim till 6 weeks before he got out there, he said, which I'm sure is when he found out who's going out in the season, which is always a recipe for disaster, by the way. I remember when he was at his tribal council because, so remember when they go to the immunity challenge and they just switched and he's like, Chris, think about the merge.
Yeah, and it seemed really loud.
Well, and it does, and I think the reason why when he says that the immune challenge, because what he's saying to Chris is like, think about the merge. You guys have the numbers. If you guys lose, you can eliminate Julie or Twyla, a woman, and we can go in the merge with numbers of men. And Chris is like, whatever. But he says it, and it seems like to us it's loud, like when you watch it. But if you look at everyone around him, no one looks at him. And I do think everyone on his tribe would have looked at him if he had really been that loud. Yeah. I think he was like trying to like whisper, yell it.
Apparently some of the guys didn't even know.
No.
And some of the women didn't know.
Only Chris got attention. And honestly, I don't even know, because it was never shown on the show, if Chris actually heard what he said. He may have. I don't know if Chris
He was looking at him.
understood.
I understood.
But
what he said,
Amy heard him, and you see Amy like looking at him. And they get back to camp because their tribe does lose. Yasser does lose. And they're like, you try telling them to throw the challenge. And I'm like, that's a good thing. I mean, I guess not. I mean, in a way, it's like he was trying to get your tribe to win immunity. But on the flip side, it's like to get rid of one of your alliance members.
Sure.
So it definitely good reason for him going home for sure over Rory.
It was, whether he like whispered it or not, it really wasn't.
They just cranked the volume
moment.
for us on the
I'm
mic.
sure. And I'm sure he was like, felt like desperate or something. And so that's why he felt like he had to do it.
He had honestly, it's a good strategy. What he was presenting was not bad. It's just that he got caught and his tribe
he
didn't
should have
do
talked about this. Well, I guess there was no opportunity to do it before the switch.
Yeah, it's kind of, it does. It's one of those things too where the tribe he was telling it to was actually getting in good with Julie and Twyla.
Yeah.
So they probably didn't want to throw it anyways. And he didn't know that because he came over to the tribe with Amy. And Amy, as we learned on this season very quickly, wants all men to die in the show, in the game of Survivor, not in real life. She's just like, let's slice all their necks. Let's women to the end. I want a woman's alliance to carry us to the end. It never happened before. To be fair, though, a men's alliance has never happened before to the end, unless you want to count Ethan, Tom, and Lex in Africa. Other than that, though, I remember you and I discussed this, and I ran through every a group of people gets to the end, and it's never all men. Never. It's just only in Africa, and it's only because Kim Johnson wins immunity that it isn't all men in the final three. Yeah. But otherwise, it never happens. So I'm not sure where this mindset. Anyway, but to be fair, no, there's never been an all women group of people either. So.
Sure.
Amy is so anti-men that the moment Travis and Rory flip to their tribe, to Yasser, they know they're done. It's done. Yeah. And Rory's such a hot mess. They were going to go for him first, but Travis shot himself in the foot.
Didn't she tell them when they first got to the camp?
Oh, I'm sure.
I don't know.
No, remember
they were being really nice to them.
Well, I think everyone else will want to be friendly with them because remember they got there and they're like, oh, let's show Bubba and Rory like how. And I think this was after the tribe swap. It could have been at the merge, but I'm 99% sure it was tribe swap. But they want to show them.
It was tribe swap.
It was when they wanted to show them like the coconut chop thing they learned from the Bushmen that came and helped them. And she's like, no, don't show them anything. And it's like.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, this isn't like a strategic thing. Like it's just us being friendly. And she's like, that's how hardcore Amy was about getting rid of these men. She didn't even want them to feel included, which of course would bite her in the butt if she got to final tribal and she's up against a man. But I don't think she was thinking in that way. I think she was literally thinking, let's stack the women so that there are not enough men to make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it definitely makes her character, and as I've told you before off recording, but Amy and Eliza come back for another season in Micronesia. And Mary does not know anything about what happens in seasons 10 through 16. So
I do not.
16 is Micronesia. What's up?
I said I do not.
Nope. So she has no idea how they do on that season.
So don't ruin it for me.
Well, somebody ruins in the comments. Just don't. You don't even.
Yeah,
I don't think you even watch these after we're done anyway. So
why would I watch myself talking when I've already been talking?
It's just to really stroke your ego.
No.
Okay. Well, so that was Bubba's. What character, any character you want to talk about next?
I did want to talk about Lisa because she was voted out before Rory.
Yeah, that's true.
And I guess we kind of already mentioned it, but Amy definitely
was
spearheaded that. Yeah. And I did think it was interesting because they were so gung-ho about the Women's Alliance, but because Amy was offended, she flipped on Lisa. But that's the only time I really can remember her flipping on the Women's Alliance. Like, it seems like the whole time she's really...
What I think it's important about Lisa going, too, not to completely interrupt you, but Lisa going, like, that move by Amy makes Chris realize or think that the other tribe isn't a bunch of men haters, basically, man haters.
Sure.
And so it causes them to vote out John Kenny at the next tribal. It's just like it's a domino effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true because the women were all like, oh, when they see that there's a woman gone, they're going to think the Women's Alliance isn't strong. When in reality, apparently, it still really was. Even though
it was.
They voted out one of their... Like, I know, but how can you... I don't know. They're just so dumb because Lisa made one comment. Amy gets mad enough to vote her off.
It has to be more than that. It can't just be the one comment.
I mean, it was a dumb comment.
Yeah.
You're right. It could have just been editing. Because
they were living with her at that point. She gets voted out on day 15. They've known her for 2 weeks. Like, if she just made one comment, but she was like her best friend, it would have been totally different. But it wasn't. She wasn't her best friend.
Obviously.
Yeah, I mean,
but
obviously.
neither was Eliza or any of the other girls, but she stuck with it. So.
I love Eliza because she brings so much drama to the season and yet still makes Final Four.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that she made it so far caused drama, and if it wasn't for Chris just stabbing in the back, she could have been the final two. I mean, really. Eliza's another character we'll get to later. So yeah, Lisa going home was an important, not that Lisa was a big character, just that
it's just an important kind of turning point, I guess.
Very important. Yeah, I agree. John Kenny, Rory. I love Rory. I wish Rory made the jury. And I think it's a shame that in these early seasons, if you make the merge, you don't automatically make the jury. Because Boston Rob would have been on the jury. Rory would have been on the jury. In the Amazon, Roger would have been on the jury. Not that that would have mattered at the end. But just like some of these interesting people like make the merge but then get cut. And I'm glad that in later seasons, I don't know what season this switches without looking it up. But at some point, it becomes you make the merge, you make the jury, and I think that's how it should be.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the reasoning, but sure.
And not that Rory making the jury changed the outcome of the season. It's just that they are big enough characters. Whereas Rob making the jury in Marquesas, I don't know. I'm pretty sure he would vote for Vecepia. She still wins, but you just don't know. It's just that that wild card factor. But
sure.
I loved Rory. I loved how he said things like, "That was just classless the way the women over there won. It's Sarge, if they were a man, would you have taken that? That was just classless." And then he's like going off and he's like walking off with the machete in hand, like their only machete for like 3 or 4 hours. And they're just like, everyone's back at camp like, what is he doing?
The fishing pole, not the machete.
I think he also had the machete, didn't he? Or no?
I only remember the fishing pole.
I did listen to this interview with Chris Doherty, I believe is how you say his name. And so I could be mixing up what he said with what was shown on the show. So forgive me if I am, but he did. But Chris confirmed.
I can see both happening.
Chris confirmed that he would leave for 3 to 4 hours, and he would have an important item with him that like the tribe needed. And it was like more so that he had the item versus him leaving.
Sure.
Like him leaving annoyed Sarge a lot, and Sarge kept wanting to like get Rory because him and Rory were just at each other's throats. But it was interesting too how the younger men, the 4 younger men got together at the beginning of the game, and then the 5 older men are like, why don't we just get together and vote out the younger men?
Yeah.
And it was like obvious numbers. And all the younger men were just like flabbergasted, like, why are you voting us off? Because I don't have a kid, you're voting me off? And it's like, no, man, because you're aligning with the other people.
That was really dumb.
That's not why he was getting voted off, though.
I know, but that whole he didn't have to be, I don't know.
Bubba was just straightforward with them.
I guess he was straightforward, and
that's why I appreciate Bubba. Not that he's a good player, I just appreciate him.
Yeah, not the best player. They didn't have the best strategic players.
No, it really was just Chris.
I mean, Chris wasn't bad.
Chad probably would have made it far if he was on the right side, because Chad was like a nice guy. But I don't think they would ever let him get to the final 2 because he had the prosthetic leg. By the way, first person in Survivor history to have prosthetic leg.
That's pretty cool. And he made it really far.
Yeah, and he doesn't really have anything else though with him. He doesn't have anything else this season that's really interesting.
Yeah,
that he does. He's not involved in any drama. He doesn't cause drama.
He seemed like a genuinely nice person, probably. That's why.
That's not what I want in Survivor. But it's funny, though, when he's talking to Chris, and Chris is like, well, no, you got a leg up on me. And they just like bowl over laughing. He's like, I'm so sorry. And Chad's like, there's like 1,000 puns. Don't worry about it.
That was funny. Yeah, he seemed like he would be a really great guy to have in your tribe. And I do remember him having like one really good strategic moment. I honestly don't remember what it was, but I just remember him coming up and saying something at some point, and I'll be like, oh, he has a brain. Like, it hasn't really shown him doing any sort of strategy.
Oh, I think he's a smart guy. I just think his story wasn't important because
he didn't win.
Because he was just on the wrong side of the numbers, and that's why I got voted out, honestly. Yeah. That's really what ended up happening. I do think it's interesting how when Julie Berry gets flipped to the men's tribe, she flirts her way, like, into like everyone trusting her. She like gets Sarge to like show his bare butt.
Oh my
to the sky. Yeah. And Sarge had a thing for her. And by the way, I was like the whole time I was like, isn't Sarge married? But I was just assuming because he's old. In fact, he was only 40 at the time. He looks older.
Yeah.
He's only 40 at the time. But I guess maybe he just wasn't married because it was never brought up. But he's like, him and Julie are just like flirting up a storm. And yes,
I thought he had a thing for Twyla.
To anyone listening, we do know that Julie dated Jeff for like 3 or 4 years afterwards. And I did mention it like 1,000 times when we watched the show. But Julie, man, Julie's only, let me see, 23 and Sarge is 40. So it was just like, I don't know, because Julie was the one initiating it. I think it's what made it like funny. Whereas if Sarge had been the one initiating like these things, it would have been like weird.
A little creeper.
But they were both like, she was just playing him and he was accepting it.
Yeah, she was definitely just trying to get in good. And I think he realized
she was good at that, by the way. She made people trust her.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he realized it, but also at the same time felt flattered by it because, I mean, he had a hot 20-year-old.
A 23-year-old girl's giving me attention and I'm a single 40-year-old man. Yeah. No, I get it. I get it.
No, what I was going to say, back to Rory.
Yeah, I love
was
Rory.
That he cracked me up with his strategy because he would be like,
yes, I know
I'm after tribal. He was going to treat them like a big brother and tell them how disappointed he was in their decisions. And like, he would just like let them have it. And I'm talking about after the tribe swap
after
when he was,
Bubba,
he's like the only man in this group. And he's just like ripping them up for voting out Bubba or whatever.
But this was on purpose. He says this was his strategy.
He says it's strategy.
It wasn't an emotional reaction.
Yeah, he says, I have no idea why. Like, instead of ingratiating himself into the tribe, he just puts their backs up and makes them want to vote him out even more. But no, he has, it's his strategy. And that's what
he thinks it works and it doesn't work. It's just that somebody else screws up more royally than he did.
Exactly.
And then like I forgot which episode it was, but he's like, I'm initiating planned self-destruct. I talked to my wife about this before I came out on the island. Yeah. And by the way, nowhere when he explains it does he say his wife agreed or that she told him her thoughts. He just says he told her he was going to do this. Mm-hmm. And so they get their like letters from home and a reward. And literally in the letter it says, hey, by the way, don't do the self-destruct plan.
Watch your temper.
Watch your temper. And Roy's like, okay, I guess I won't. Kind of reminds me of like Sandra and Pearl Islands where she was like, I'm going to destroy everything at camp. And then she like a day later, like realizes maybe I shouldn't do that.
Yeah, but Sandra kind of came to that on her own. She came down off of her emotional high.
Yeah.
And like,
well, I think she realized she had a
logic.
chance at getting further in the game. She thought she was done.
Right.
Or Rory here was just like playing self-destruct and took his wife's letter. You know what? I'm glad he got his wife's letter because I think the funnier moment to me is worth more than the drama it would have caused had he actually done playing self-destruct or whatever.
Yeah, that would have been more drama.
Yeah, no, I actually preferred the funny moment over it. But Rory, I love Rory in the season. I'm not appalled is not the right word. I'm just like disappointed that he was never brought back for another season ever.
I'm sure he probably didn't ever want to, honestly.
I don't know, and I'm not going to speak on his behalf because I'm sure he probably... Well, he was depicted as such a, like, doofus, villain kind of guy on the season. So
I'm sure he didn't appreciate
I haven't
that.
listened to any interviews with him, so I can't speak on, like, whether he wants to. If he did want to, I would want him to. Mm-hmm. Because even though he's not, like, a great... Survivor isn't always about great gameplay. Sometimes just about... the fun
entertainment.
Yes, entertainment. That's really why I watch it. The storylines and the entertainment and the strategy to me is like secondary in terms of like what I enjoy. Mm-hmm. But the strategy can cause so many fun moments. Like planned self-destruct is supposedly a strategic move, I guess. Same with the whole thing he did as we mentioned earlier.
Pretty bad strategy.
What?
I said it's bad strategy. It might be strategy.
I thought you said it was my dad's strategy. And I'm like, you know what? I could see my dad doing that. I remember I used to watch Survivor when we were growing up. Well, I did watch Survivor when we were growing up. And my dad would say some of the most boneheaded strategies he would do. And it was always like an emotional reaction to things happening in the game. And I'm like, that sounds like a terrible idea. You'd get voted out. And it was just like planned self-destruct usually. That was my dad. My dad would say something. It's like, that's terrible strategy.
Doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, my mom wasn't much better, but my dad would constantly say terrible strategies. We have talked about Julie Berry a little bit. Question: do you think she's a secret genius because people have the suspicion that she is?
I mean, it's hard to tell just because she doesn't get a lot. She hardly get any confessionals or anything throughout the show.
Which is so strange because everyone on the show seems to like her.
Yeah.
And she's always in the minority, it seems like, on the numbers too, if you look at her voting record.
Yeah. I feel like she's just, I don't know if she's a secret genius. I just feel like she is a pretty good people person and understands what people... I think
she's a really good people person.
...want to hear or say. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't say she was a genius because I think she could have made it farther.
I would say she's a good player.
Yeah.
Like a 7.5 out of 10 player because her social game is so good. And if she had been on the right side of the numbers this season instead of on the wrong side, who knows? She could have gotten to the end. It would have been a different result of who's in the final 4 though, because she was picked off right before it. But I think she's a good player. Amy, to me, on the other hand, strikes me as like, she reminds me of Boston Rob. Honestly, she's like a female Boston Rob in a sense of like, she wants to control the game and she wants to make it go her way. And if it doesn't go her way, it's going to blow up in her face. And here it did that. Yeah. And that happens to Boston Rob. Whenever things don't go his way, it blows up in his face. Because Rob is just so like tunnel vision. He's like, yeah, I have to Rob father things. And if things can't be Rob fathered, he doesn't want to deviate. He just wants to do what he wants to do. And everyone needs to fall in line with what he wants to do. And he's usually pretty good at convince people to do his way.
Yeah.
Depending on.
So was Amy.
You know, even on the Amazing Race, he does this. So as I'm working on an Amazing Race video right now with him, Amy to me though strikes me as the same thing in terms of that. Like, she's good with people, but she wants things to go her way, and if they don't, it's gonna blow up in her face. Yeah. And here it definitely did that.
It's almost like they're not flexible. Like they have this is the plan, and this is going to be the plan.
Stick to the plan.
And they don't know what to do when the plan doesn't work.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're not the
not
plan's
that they
good.
Don't know what to do when the
plan
doesn't
is
work.
great.
It's just that they're not flexible enough to have like, okay, well this didn't work, so let's switch to plan B. Yeah. It's just like my plan didn't work and it seemed so foolproof because I had everyone on lockdown, but people don't want to just do whatever I want to do. Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah. I think Amy was a good character. Apparently she was like a fan favorite at the time. I don't get that, but I'm also a man.
I can see it, but
and I feel like in the way it could be like if because she's a female, I just am going to find it harder to relate, period. So you are really the expert here. Was like, out of all the women, who's your favorite character?
I mean, honestly, I really did like Twyla, but I'm always like for the underdog.
Mary liked Twyla in terms of like Twyla's work ethic.
I just like Twyla.
You liked her going around calling everyone the B word?
No. I'm not saying she's a perfect human being.
No.
I thought she was funny. She was entertaining.
She was.
She worked hard, but she worked hard at the game too. Like she really played hard. She was up there in challenges a lot, even though she didn't really look very physically like a threat. But she had heart.
For her over Chris?
She had big heart. I don't know. Probably simply because, and I know that sitting at home is completely different, but sitting at home, like his tribal council, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Oh, we will.
Was so full of crap. Like I do not know how they didn't see him just buttering them all up the whole time. I mean, and I hate that. I hate that. Like I hate
Scout
that.
Saw it.
So I probably would have voted for Twyla, honestly.
Yeah.
Like even though Chris played a better game, technically.
Yeah.
Like just the bald face lies he was telling to everybody.
Bald face, yeah.
No, it's bald face. And like making himself cry when Julie walked up. He does not care about Julie. That bugged me. So yeah, no, I probably would have voted for Twyla.
I like Chris a lot because he's just like once all the men are gone, he's just like playing with house money is how I feel. Like he's just throwing everything at the wall and just having fun while doing it. Like some people get cornered and they do plan self-destruct, which is funny, but it's not going to work. And some people get cornered and they get scared and they just like, I'll do anything I can. They get desperate, and desperate while a strategy, and I'm sure it's viable and I'm sure it works. And don't get me wrong, it's just not fun for me to watch.
Sure.
What's fun for me to watch somebody get cornered and be like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do everything I can to get whatever I want to get further in the game. That to me is the most entertaining thing. And when somebody does that, I always appreciate it. Yeah. Boston Rob did the same thing in Marquesas where he got cornered and he just started doing everything. It didn't work for good reason. Boston Rob is very, his way or the highway, but he just made his boot episode in Marquesas so crazy because he's up against the wall. He knew he's probably going home next, and he just like went all out in terms of like trying to blow up everything in camp, like figuratively. Obviously, he didn't have real bombs, so I just want to clarify.
I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, she would have probably thought he did. But yeah, no, I like Twyla. I think Twyla's good. I really liked Eliza.
I know you do
because of all the drama she causes, and it's like you watch her on TV and you're like, okay, she's pretty, she's athletic, like she looks like she'd be a good survivor. She's very talkative, but she's too talkative, I think is what happened. Like on TV, we're only getting 40 minutes of her, even if it's not even 40 minutes of her. We're getting 3 days of her condensed into like, 5-10 minutes of an episode. And to us, it's not grating. Or maybe it was to you.
She's pretty grating even on TV.
Well, no, imagine living with her.
I imagine living with her was
for
terrible.
37, 38 days. And it probably, yeah. So, like, when I think about just watching on TV, I'm like, I loved Eliza on TV. I think about living with her in person on this season of Survivor, and I can totally imagine why she was grating on people's nerves.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think Eliza goes to the end, she doesn't win.
No.
I think even if she's up against Twyla or Scout, I don't think she wins.
No,
Julie,
I think she beats Twyla or Scout.
I don't think she beats Twyla. And I think it's because the whole season, Eliza... I don't think anyone, even if Eliza's sitting there at the end and she does the same thing as Chris, for example, I don't think people buy it from Eliza.
No, but see, everybody hated Twyla. Everybody hated
That's
Twyla.
not true. Scout liked Twyla.
Except for Scout.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Amy
Except for Scout.
Amy voted
and
for Twyla as
Amy.
well.
Amy only voted for Twyla because she was the last woman.
That's not true. Amy
which
claimed
is not
because
what she
Twyla
said,
got her out.
Which is not. I'm sure that's what she said.
I'm sure it's both. Don't get me wrong.
I'm sure it's both. But I'm saying if there were two women up there, Eliza would choose.
I don't think Amy picks Eliza.
Amy was closer to Eliza than Twyla. Amy never liked Twyla, but she got along with Eliza at least a little bit.
I mean, yeah. It's impossible for us to know without actually seeing them in a final travel together.
Sure.
I know
but,
we can speculate all day.
Sarge was super mad at Twyla for stabbing him in the back.
True.
I'm sure Chad would do whatever.
Okay,
Sarge
we're running a fake
did.
scenario where Eliza makes final two with Twyla instead of Chris.
That's what you just said. Yeah.
Okay, who does Chris vote for, Twyla or Eliza?
I don't know because I don't know who would have voted him out.
Let's just assume that at Final Four, instead of Eliza going, Chris goes. Because Eliza wins immunity and Chris doesn't win immunity like he did. By the way, that challenge was super cool.
Yes.
The vertical maze thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
I can imagine that took a long time to build. I mean, I don't really want to get too deep into like who would have won. I mean, I guess Eliza could win. I'm not saying Twyla is a pretty big goat this season. It's just that it would have been I think if those two had been the final two and Eliza wins, it would have been a great story because she was so disliked all season. But I don't think it's like the story ever takes a turn. It's like, well, Eliza by the end figured out how to get people to like her. I think it's Eliza gets to the end and beats Twyla, and Twyla just, wasn't as good.
No, it wouldn't have been it wouldn't have been an interesting ending, I don't think. But I'm saying it's a possibility. That's all I'm saying.
Sure. I mean, I agree that Eliza could beat Twyla, is what I concluded. Mm-hmm. So was there anyone else you want to talk about before we get to people's questions that they have for us?
I mean, was
there something we missed?
We didn't talk about like Sarge at all.
Oh, I mean, I wasn't going to talk about every single person, but if you want, yeah, sure. What
about
Sarge?
Sarge was really important.
We talked about him showing his butt, to the sun, because remember one time he went to Europe, so it's cool.
Yeah, so he was cool with it.
Yeah.
I mean, went to Europe once. I liked Sarge in general. I thought how he led the men's tribe was really well. Everyone respected him. He did really well, except for Rory, and probably some of the younger guys, I'm sure.
Yeah.
No, I just like Sarge as a character, and it really bugged me that Twyla turned on him, and then he was like so mad at her after that. Like, they were such good buddies, and then that happened, and I feel like they never talked to each other again, and that really made me sad. That was really all I was going to say.
We didn't watch the reunion show. I mean, I think we watched the beginning of the reunion show.
Yeah.
Well, we did. I know we did because it was like everyone was talking about what they thought of Chris, and it's like there's so much praise for Chris, and Chad was even like going on about how Chris might be one of the best winners, and Jeff just like cuts him off.
Yeah, that was funny.
But like the whole thing where Sarge is at Final Tribal and he's like, I'm voting for Twyla. It was so see-through that he wasn't really voting for I don't know if Twyla saw through it, but it seemed see-through to us that he was going to vote for Chris.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that if Chris bombs Final Tribal, like Colby Donaldson, not that you've seen Colby Donaldson's Final Tribal, but just know that he bombed it really hard.
Mm-hmm.
If he bombs it like Colby Donaldson, I do think that Chris could have lost votes. I don't know if Chris loses because he needs to lose 2 votes that he got.
Right.
But it's very possible he could have lost Sarge. If he treats Sarge like a jerk, he could.
Sure, but that was never Chris's strategy.
That's not Chris. That's not who Chris was at the end, for sure, and not really at any point in the game being a jerk to
anyone's
people.
face.
Well, no. Well, I do think he really had a friendship with Sarge. If I were to guess, I bet you they really did go to a race afterwards, or something. I'm sure they hung out. But Chris totally BS'd his entire Final Tribal, and it was hilarious. like every single answer was just like exactly what he knew they wanted to hear. And then before Final Tribal, he's like, hey, Twyla, I'm not taking crap from anybody at Final Tribal. What about you? And I don't think that's what caused Twyla to act the way she did. I'm sure she was going to act the way she was anyways, but
probably, but it didn't.
It did
hurt.
help.
Yeah.
It did help.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I'm not taking crap from anybody.
Especially when with those questions, Twyla was always the one that they asked to answer first, which worked out really well.
Yeah,
for him.
They were so caught up in that, the fact that she swore on her son's life that one time. And it's I think to us now it's this, because especially since we've seen like Tony and Kagayan swearing like his mother and his baby
everybody swears on everything.
Nowadays it's not, it's like, it's just a game move at this point. But back then it was like super personal, and I can't think of anyone aside from Johnny Fairplay swearing on like a family member and lying in a past season. So
didn't Sandra swear on her kids or something?
Did she?
Yeah.
Yeah. But remember, it was okay because then under her breath she muttered, "They'll stab you in the back" or whatever, which of course is not how it works. But
she didn't. She was just thinking that she didn't actually.
Yeah.
But either way, it doesn't really matter.
All these people have only seen the TV show. They weren't there on Pearl Islands.
Sure.
But yeah, Fairplay's the only one who's like swearing on his grandmother, or his dead grandmother, who isn't really dead. So I guess he's not really swearing on anybody since he doesn't have a dead grandmother. But I mean, think about it. Twyla lied about swearing on her son she would do something and she didn't do it. And then the direct comparison, not that it was ever said in the season, is Fairplay. Because that's what's going to stick out in everybody's mind, that he's sworn to his dead grandma. And here's Twyla swearing on her son and she didn't do it. And I think that could have been part of it. I also do think that back then there was some reason, there was this whole like more morality behind the game that we're going to slowly move. As we move through the seasons, we're going to slowly get towards this is just a game.
Yeah.
But we have not gotten to that point yet at all. For better or for worse. And I think for better sometimes because it makes for interesting TV.
Mm-hmm. And obviously the women were mad about it because by lying, she ended up backstabbing Leanne and Amy, I guess, inadvertently. Yeah. But Sarge was also super mad about it. He wasn't mad about that, though. I think Sarge, he says he was mad about that, but I think he was just mad that she voted him out. So I think
he was mad because once they got to the merge, her and Julie flipped on him. I think if Julie's sitting there at the final two instead of Twyla, even though I know they were like flirting and stuff, and I think he'd be mad at Julie as well, though it's different because Twyla's like not an attractive young female who's going to flirt with Sarge, and she's more like how he viewed him was more like, like one of the guys. She viewed her as one of the guys, so he liked her as well. He liked them both. Yeah, I think he would be mad at both of them though, because they both flipped on him at the merge, and they weren't going, or at least they said they weren't going to.
It just felt like him and Twyla actually had a real relationship. Yeah. Versus him and Julie, it was just like whatever.
Well, yeah, no. I feel like him and Twyla had a more real relationship. I think that's the word.
That's what I just said. Literally the words out of my mouth.
Oh, sorry. I just like to copy paste.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole Final Tribal though, like to me, this is one of, if not the best performance so far in a Final Tribal in the first 9 seasons. I mean,
he should have got an Oscar, really.
I think it rivals Sandra's performance at Final Tribal. When I did her video, I was actually super impressed by her Final Tribal performance. I do think and don't get me wrong, there are other people who've had good Final Tribals. I just think like top to bottom, like one of the most entertaining, and also one of like just giving everyone what they want to hear. And if Scout was not there saying, Chris, you're up to your ears in BS, I think Chris gets away with it clean. Yeah. Like no one realizes.
I mean, he still got away with it.
And even at the reunion, no one's like really mad at Chris.
Right.
Like everyone's like, Chris is great. And it's not like how we'll see in later seasons where somebody like dominates Final Tribal or like or dominates the game and gets Final Tribal and gets ripped apart like Rob or Russell, or even what we just saw in All Stars where Rob, Rob blew Final Tribal hard in All Stars. Not that I think Final Tribal makes all the difference for him, but it's just like contrast that with Chris here, who's just like top to bottom, telling everybody what they want to hear, apologizing. Twyla would not apologize for things. Chris was like, even though he's lying, he's apologizing, and it makes people feel better about him. And it worked.
Yeah.
And it worked.
If you're planning on going on Survivor and you want to take notes about how to win your final jury speech or whatever,
humble yourself.
Watch this like 5 times and take notes.
Well, there's another excellent Final Tribal performance that we'll get to in a later season that you have not seen. That is apparently the best ever. And I am not going to spoil it at all. But when we get to it, we'll see how it compares to this one, because this one is like really good. But I do think one of the keys of a good final trial performance is just being honest with people, not pumping yourself up in a way that puts other people down who are on the jury.
Sure.
You don't want to make them feel like crap and like you're like, I'm better than you. Like, there is a season as well that you have not seen. Try not to spoil who these people are, where somebody will be like, actually, I don't think I was like better than you at any of these things. I just think the timing of my moves was better than yours. And so the person doesn't feel like that they're worse than them.
Sure.
It's just like, oh, you got lucky with your timing. Your timing is better. Like, I can accept that. I'm not going to say that you're better than me at challenges or strategy. You know, it's just kind of like making the jury still feel good about voting for you.
Yeah.
So
obviously.
Yeah. Well, some people don't care. Like Rob in Redemption Island, I don't think he understands how, but does not care that everyone's mad at him. They get to final tribal and Rob wins. You know, but it's not because anybody wanted to vote for him. It's just that they couldn't vote for Philip and they couldn't vote for, I think, Natalie, or I forgot, Natalie Tenorelli, I think is who it was. It's like, it's hard for me to remember everyone on the season, but you know, not everyone, but he dominated the whole season and he did it in a way where final tribal didn't matter. Whereas here, I think final tribal did matter.
Yeah, it did.
Because Chris wins over a jury of mostly women. There are 5 women there and 2 men, and he wins 5-2.
It's true.
So he convinced 3 women to vote for him, and Twyla only got 2. So even if it's just the women, he still won. So I think it's just a brilliant performance. But I do want to get into some of these questions that people sent us if you have nothing else.
Sure.
Okay. So I haven't curated this list. So I'm going to just pick them as we go. And if something we kind of already discussed, we don't have to discuss it again. But let me see what we got here. And some of these names, by the way, I don't even know how to pronounce. Like, some of them have foreign letters, so forgive me if I butcher your name. But Soy Daddy wants to know, does Chris beat everyone in the final 6? Final 6 is Twyla, Scout, Eliza, Julie, Amy. Does he beat every single one of those people if he's up against them at final 2?
I'm not sure he beats Amy.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think, yeah, probably.
Does he beat Julie? I guess is another question.
Yes.
Everybody seems like Julie.
I mean, just because people, I guess, no, because with the way he treated people at tribal council and made sure everyone felt good.
I think Julie made everyone feel good too.
Yeah, but she didn't do anything much.
That we saw, because remember the story wasn't about Julie because she didn't reach final 2.
Sure.
So I think that is something to be
purely
remembered.
on the information that I have. Yes, I do not think that he would beat Julie.
Someone said, Jake BB says, how truthful was Chris being at Final Tribal with his big emotional statements?
I think we covered that.
We covered that. Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. Vincent D says, what if Chris voted out Twyla or Scout instead of Julie? So what if he let Julie in the final 4? Why would he do that? Why would, like, obviously it was so obvious. I mean, what if he did this dumb move? It would have been dumb.
Yeah,
why would he
it
get rid of
seemed
anyone else?
like him and Julie had a really tight personal friendship. And so, putting personal friendship above strategy.
But that's not how Chris played the game.
But that is not how Chris played the game.
Yeah, that would be unlike him, basically, to make that move.
It would have been much harder for him to win.
Because once he does that, as long as he gets to the final, once he's in the final 4, as long as he can just get to the final 2, I think he beats Eliza, Scout, Twyla.
I think so.
I think he beats all 3. Scout's terrible challenges, so him taking her to final 4 was like, duh, I'm gonna beat her at challenges. Twyla was Twyla, as we saw. She's kind of a goat. And Eliza annoyed a ton of people. It was funny when her mom came to visit and she's like, people are annoyed by me. I talked about it. She's like, oh, really? like her mom knew.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So Eager Tortoise, by the way, I'm doing a collab with Eager Tortoise right now as we're recording. I'm sure by the time this is public on YouTube, it's already done. So check it out on his channel and my channel. But Eager Tortoise asks, I've heard that Leanne was actually controlling the game before her boot, but Amy was just a better character, so they focused a lot more on her. What do you think about that?
I could see that, honestly. I really could. Leanne acts like all this, but a lot of the conversations that they had, it was between Amy and Leanne, and I could definitely see that. I could see that.
I think what he says is good here is, but Amy's better character, so they focus on a lot more on her. I don't know if it's just that Amy's a better character. I do think she adds an interesting layer. More entertaining character. But the reason I think that she is because the season's men versus women, and I think she, out of all the women, lean the most into women versus men. And I don't ever remember Leanne on screen being like, oh, we're going to get the men out of here. In fact, I'm going to get butchered. I think, wasn't she the one who wanted to show them how to chop the coconuts, maybe?
No, that was Lisa.
That was Lisa, okay.
Yeah.
So ignore me on that. So I'm glad you're here. But definitely, I do think Amy was the most like, let's get rid of the men. Let's not give them anything. And I think that makes for a better story, especially when the winner is going to be a man and he's going to be the winner because all the women imploded. I think it just makes the storytelling is the reason why Leanne wasn't shown to be this major figure. Even though I think most of the time the show prioritizes what's going to be good TV versus who's the best strategist out here.
Well, of course, yeah.
Well, it's why like Vesepia gets so overshadowed. Even though she has like on paper one of the most incredible stories ever, she gets overshadowed in Marquesas because she's not like this amazing confessionalist. Like when she does talk, she's good, but otherwise she's like kind of a quiet, stays out of drama, and Survivor loves it when there's drama. So
people love drama.
Well, it does. I mean, even I admit I like the drama in Survivor.
Drama.
I don't like it in all shows. Just Survivor's dramas to me is very interesting. So Nolan Russell asked, which three players from the season would you like to see most play again? And in this case, already knowing that Eliza and Amy play again, you can count them in your 3 if you want. Because for me, it would be Chris, Eliza. I'm trying to think of a third. And Rory. Yeah, obviously.
Who would I like to see play again?
3 people, if you can.
I would agree with Chris because I'd like to see if he could improve his game any. Because I'm sure by now,
years at this point, I don't know.
People know. Well, yeah.
I think he's been overshadowed.
He's old now, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think Chris would be interesting to see again, just in a different situation.
He'd be in his 50s now.
I do agree that Amy probably would be interesting to watch again.
She does come back again too, so that works.
Honestly, Leanne, because if she really was this mastermind player that they didn't show, I think that'd be cool to see.
Yeah, but I don't think they were showing her because she wasn't giving them amazing content. So I'm not sure if they would. By the way.
She wouldn't be as entertaining enough.
Yeah, well, but then again, maybe in a different alliance, different context, she is a bigger character. So it would be interesting. Daddy Coconut, some of these names. Daddy Coconut asks, what castaway has the singular... I'm going to read it as they wrote it, and I think we can translate. What castaway has the singularly most impressive move the whole game, and how was it impressive? Which move to you in the entire game was the most impressive
I understood.
move?
It was written fine.
What's that?
I said I understood. It was written fine.
Okay.
The most impressive move. There was actually some pretty good moves in this season. I want to say when they voted out Sarge, but that wasn't really impressive. It was just like,
you mean when they
it was
voted out
impressive
Rory
that when Amy or Julie pulled Twyla and Julie back to her women's group.
That was when they voted out Rory.
And voted out
at the merge. They voted out Rory. That's when they pulled
but
back.
that was like obvious they're gonna vote out Rory.
No,
I wasn't sure. Sure, that was when the original flip happened.
Yeah.
But I honestly thought that Twyla might still stick with Sarge.
Once Sarge talked to her and be like, "Oh, we
want
to
Sarge
stay with you."
Yes, yeah, because she was like, "Yeah, I should have listened. I shouldn't have listened, Julie. I know." And I was like, "Okay, good. This is going to be interesting." But she didn't.
Yeah.
Amy still pulled her over somehow, convinced her to stay with the women, and I think that was very important because the men just got picked off one by one after that.
I think there are a lot of impressive moves this season, especially with some of these flips. I think the one that impressed me the most was the final tribal. And it's probably because I really had no idea that I was going to watch this final tribal and be like, and see someone just like completely give everyone exactly what they want.
Is that a move? I mean, I guess you're right. It's a move.
Yeah, it's
sure.
a move. It's not something as tangible as like playing an idol or convincing somebody to vote with you. Like sure. There are impressive moves this season. Just the one that caught my eye and I'm going to remember the most is this final tribal.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Well, it's not that I'm right. It's just that it's my personal opinion. Somebody else asked, Big Brother spoilers. Well, great. They're going to spoil every season Big Brother for me now. If Chris didn't win this season, who would it have been? Basically, they're asking who was the second best player of the season behind Chris?
What does that have to do with Big Brother?
It's not. That's just their name is Big Brother Spoilers.
Sorry. I got it. The second, I would say Amy, really. She played so hard this whole game.
If the women's alliance doesn't implode, Amy wins.
Yeah,
I think.
I think so.
You know, I'd agree with you. I think Amy or Julie, if the women's alliance does not implode, I think that one of them wins. Because Leanne is the first to go out of that women's alliance, which tells me that even if Chris had gone where he should have gone, that Leanne was probably
she was
going to
go eventually.
Probably, though it was because I don't know. Even Amy probably goes because remember it was like Scout and them who are like, I'm tired of seeing Amy and Leanne think they run the show.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I want to say the second best player of the season was Amy, but that's only because we got such a large focus on her, and it could have actually been someone else. So just based on what we saw, a lot of these questions are kind of repeating themselves, in my opinion. Somebody says, "What do you think of Amy being a Giovanni Orellana?" I'm trying to say that correctly. Says, "What do you think of Amy being a female Lex? I see a lot of similarities between the two." I'm not sure if I see Lex. I definitely see Boston Rob, personally.
I mean, I only remember Lex from All Stars.
Super emotional.
Amy was emotional.
Lex in All Stars is the same as Lex in Africa.
Okay.
Just in Africa, he gets to the final 3. Trust me, it wasn't that much different. It was like you just got more Lex in Africa.
I mean, I'm sure there's similarities because they're both good players, and they both. Lex is kind of controlling. Well, very controlling, I think.
Yes.
Also,
if somebody flipped on Lex, he would emotionally
respond.
He would just like on Africa, you really saw it more so because he was in the game longer. But yeah, no, Lex in Africa, Lex in All Stars, almost same Lex. I just don't see this. I don't see it as direct as I do with Boston Rob in terms of Amy and Vanuatu. I have not seen Amy in Micronesia in literally forever, so I don't even remember how she played that season. So I hope this question is about how she plays in. Does she? I'm wondering, does she Lex it up in Micronesia? I guess we'll find out later. Someone said, "Can Twyla be compared to Russell Hantz in Heroes versus Villains by gameplay and strategy?"
No.
I think you could.
She's not that good.
You can only compare her in terms of. I'm sorry. And I say somebody. I was AARYANVIG. I don't know how to say that, but that was her name. I don't. The only way they're similar is that when they get to the end, they're not going to win.
Yeah.
That's the only way I think.
Pretty much don't like them.
Russell wasn't blatantly honest. Russell was just super cocky.
Yeah.
And Twyla was full of herself and more of they're different kinds of pride the two had. Like Russell was prideful of him thinking he is the best. Whereas Twyla, I think, just has like this way she was raised and the way she's grown up kind of thing where it's like, I put pride in my work. I put pride in my integrity, stuff like Russell has no integrity in Survivor.
Yeah, and
Russell his pride is totally different kind. I mean, like to think about that, there's like different pride. They have different kinds of pride. So like, sure, there's a similarity. I just don't think it's a very strong similarity.
Yeah.
Big Brother spoilers put another question, said, "Did Chris deserve to be on Winners at War?" I think that it's a hard one because we had 12 new school winners and 8 old school winners, and unfortunately came back to bite the old school winners in the butt on Winners at War. I do think that the old school winners that we're missing, unfortunately, does not include Chris. It includes Hatch and Tina Wesson because Hatch is the OG. But let's say for some reason, because of what happened with Dan Spilo on Island of the Idols, that they can't do Hatch. I believe, yes, Chris should have been next. And I know some people are going to push for the winner of Survivor China. Some people are going to I'm not trying to say names here. Some people might push for the winners of like Survivor Palau or even Exile Island. Like these other seasons, Fiji even. But I think Chris should have been strongly considered.
Yeah, I think he could have held his own for sure.
Because to me, old school is anything before 20. And they had the winner. They didn't even have JT. But JT had already played twice again.
Yeah.
And Chris has never come back. JT had a shot. So
I think it could have been interesting, and I think he could have played well.
Yeah.
Does that say he boots somebody who was picked anyway? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. If Chris is on Winners at War and they replace 2 new school winners with him and like, let's say Tina Weston because she isn't controversial, I think it would have been interesting. I really do. I think if we're going to do that, let's replace Tina with Vesepia then while we're at it because neither him or Vesepia have played again. And we've seen Tina play.
Yeah.
She played in All Stars, though. She didn't really have a chance. And then she played again in Blood versus Water. So if we're going to do it, let's say Chris and Vesepia.
That would have been cool.
If we're going to put 2 old school winners in 2. You haven't seen Vesepia play, but
No.
I've talked enough about Vesepia.
No, but you've talked a lot about her.
You know, All right. Let me read. Okay, so Video Queen 111, and this kind of goes back to, I think we talked about this a little bit. Maybe there's more we can say. While I absolutely love the contestants indulging in the culture of Vanuatu in the premiere, what do you think of the cultural sexism in the ceremony? Was this reasonable for the producers to let the women be forced to sit out on so many things? Did the men get any real advantage as a result? How do you think this affected the gameplay and the mindset of both genders? And I think we did talk about generally how or at least I did, talked about how the women were like super motivated after.
It definitely motivated them.
The women, yeah.
And they won the first challenge, right? Yeah.
They won the first immunity. Chris could not cross that balance beam.
Right, that's right.
Ironic, by the way, because the last immunity challenge is balance with bow and arrow.
True.
Yep.
So do you think he threw that?
No.
Oh, okay. I mean, a balance beam is different than just like holding a pose.
It's just that they're both balanced. It's not the same exact thing.
Yeah. So the whole cultural aspect. I mean, I think when you are going into another country and they're allowing you to film, you really do need to be really respectful of their culture. I don't think that
the question is here: should they have done the cultural opening, or should they have just gone straight to the beach and just played Survivor?
I don't think that's how it works. I think they had to ask, hey, okay, sure, maybe not, but like,
I'm not trying to cut you down. I'm just saying. I don't think that the natives were. I could be wrong. I don't think they were like, look, if you're gonna shoot Survivor here, you have to do the ceremony where we split the men and women and slice a pig's neck on TV and have them climb a grease fat pole. Sounds like a lot of Survivor to me. A lot of Survivor production.
I wasn't there. If I was there, honestly, I would have been glad that I didn't have to drink the kava or climb up the pole.
Dude, the kava was making people trip too on that one reward, like Chad.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm all about, like, I don't know. I think it's interesting to learn about other cultures, and it's not like they're being forced to live there afterwards. So it was like one night of seeing somebody else's culture. Yeah. I think it was fine. I don't think they should have had to make any changes. I think it was interesting, and now people know a little bit more about Vanuatu.
I would have had different. I like it, and I would have not liked it. I think if there had been like, they split the men and women and somebody was given an advantage. Like, let's say the men were given a tarp or something like that. Yeah. Because they're men.
And they got a spirit rock. That was obviously not an advantage.
I mean, if they were given an actual, like, tangible advantage in some way, then it would have been anti it, or the women were given a disadvantage. But nobody was, like, they weren't given the pig to go back home and eat.
Right.
You know, so it's fine.
I think it was fine.
It's fine. It makes for an interesting season. I will remember it, which is, and I can't remember a lot of Survivor openings, because a lot of them later on, especially, just like dump them off on a beach and go. I like the culture opening, so we're anti-sexism, but we are pro-culture. I don't want to say that. I'm pro-cultural things. I'm anti-discriminating people. Okay, this is a hard one for you to answer, Mary, because you don't know this. But is Chris the better version of Brian Heidick? Nicole Cowell wants to ask. I'm going to say no, because Chris actually, even though he BS'd his way through Final Tribal, like Brian BS'd the first all 39 days, I think Chris actually genuinely made relationships. I think you can agree with that. Chris genuinely made relationships with people out there.
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Oh, you really don't?
I really don't.
I really think Chris did. I think he made genuine friendships. Like and Chris was playing with a lot of heart too. And Brian never played with heart. Sure. Brian was straight up just like.
Well, it wasn't the question. Was he a better version of Brian? Isn't that the question?
Yeah. Okay. Oh.
So you do agree?
My ball. My bad. Is he a better version of Brian Heidick? I think he's better than Brian Heidick. I can say that. I don't know better version, but I will say he's better than Brian Heidick.
I could see that, because from what all you've told me about Brian Heidick, is he's pretty much cold-blooded. Like, whatever he's going to do, he never makes an emotional decision. And he controls the game. I don't think Chris controlled the game until later on, but I don't think he ever made an emotional decision. I do think
it says a lot that Brian Heidick gets ripped apart at Final Tribal, because his social game had massive glaring flaws that, for some reason, when people are considering him as a winner, they're like, he was so good, he dominated the game. It's not about dominating the game. Survivor's about two things: getting to the end and convincing the jury to vote for you. You can dominate section 1 of getting to the end, but if you barely beat the biggest goat of the season in Clay, you're not that great of a player, as it turns out. You're great at the first section, but the second part, you're not good at it. I mean, he's good. He was good enough to beat Clay, which isn't really saying a lot. But in this case, I think Chris was better at section 2 of the game, whereas Brian did a great job at section 1.
Mm-hmm.
But is Chris a better version of Brian Heidick? Chris is just a better winner than Brian Heidick, period. And when we get to winner rankings, I haven't done them officially yet with this season included, but I anticipate he will be higher than Brian Heidick. So, yeah, I cannot stress enough how much Brian Heidick has massive flaws. It blows my mind when I see people rank him number 1. He's not. He's not. He could never win another season of Survivor because he doesn't. He's just like socially inept in a lot of areas. Anyways, all right. Is this one of your favorite? Caleb Cockrell wants. Is this one of your favorite seasons? I hear it's a popular one. Maybe they haven't watched it. They say I hear it's a popular one. One of my favorite seasons. I would say this is my top. This is definitely my top half. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I'd say out of all the old school ones that we've been watching, it's up there. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites. I still like Pearl Islands a lot.
Yeah. So I was going to ask. So Mary, you've only watched with me Amazon, Pearl Islands, All Stars, and Vanuatu. Between those 4, how would you rank them?
Pearl Islands is number 1 for sure.
Okay.
Probably followed by
Vanuatu, Amazon, or All Stars?
I think I'm going to put Amazon next.
Really?
It's pretty close with Vanuatu.
The other day, I think you said Vanuatu. So
did I?
You've changed your mind. What has made you change your mind?
I was just thinking that I really enjoyed more of the characters on, and of course it's been more time.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed more of the characters on Amazon. And I guess I'm just still kind of like burned by Chris's whole line the whole time.
And Chris did in confessionals. He would.
But he's a better winner. It
totally depends on how you view it. But Chris did say things confessionals like, "Oh, I'm stuck here with 3 women." You know, like, "Oh, it's the worst." And it's like, you know.
Well, the thing that made me dislike him the most was when in confessional when he's like, "Yeah, I don't care a rip about Julie." Like basically said, "I don't care one bit about Julie. She thinks we're buddy. We are not friends." And then literally, "Oh, Julie, you're my little sister."
At Final Tribal crying. But that's so good.
I mean, you're right. It's like they're pretty close because I do appreciate him.
This is just personal opinion. You don't
I
have
know.
To be
I'm
right
just
or wrong.
like
Yeah.
I'm just. It's hard. Okay. So I feel like he is a better winner
than
Jenna for sure. So I probably will. I'll probably put Pearl Islands, Vanuatu, Amazon, and then All Star.
Flip. I was just wondering.
No, I'm just thinking. You're right.
I wasn't trying.
I am also right in my original thoughts.
Thank you. I'm not trying to.
I just really like Rob Sesternino a lot. He's one of my favorites.
I do like Rob Sesternino. Yeah, so we want to talk about somebody who should come back again, Rob. Not that I think he will with the podcast. But yeah, Rob. Yeah. I would. I mean, I don't want to say I'm not going to give season rankings every time we do this. I will say that but I actually am officially putting out season rankings with like numbers, and people hold me to it, and they'll bring it up later if I say something. So I'm just gonna say that Vanuatu is definitely top half of the first 9 for sure, and of all 40 seasons, I would say definitely top half for sure, top half of all 40. They'll watch way down the line when I've rewatched all 40. Or there'll probably be more by the time I get to that point, for sure. I would hope so. Supposedly they're supposed to shoot 3 seasons this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an intense production schedule, but
that is.
I'm here for it. They talking about airing one in the summer during Big Brother.
During Big
Please.
Brother. Wow. Yes. Please let us not have to.
I would love to not have to only be watching Big Brother, if at all. So yeah. Big Brother's okay. It's just like the recent seasons have really sucked. Look, there are some seasons that are good, but the problem with Big Brother is like there's only a handful of seasons that are like really good. Survivor's like pizza. Like it's still good even when it's not. And Big Brother's like not that. Big Brother's like McDonald's fries. Like it's only good for a very short amount of time. That's probably not the best comparison.
That's not the best.
I'm just saying Big Brother like
it's very hit or miss.
Yes, but very much more miss than hit in my opinion. So
gotcha.
Anyway, it's not a Big Brother podcast. But yeah, that's pretty much every question we got. Everything else I feel like on here we kind of covered already. So was there anything else you wanted to add about this season?
No, I think it was a good one. I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah.
Next season, Survivor Palau. You have never seen it. Interesting. Nope. I'm not spoiling anything, but I will say 20 contestants next season. It's the most they've ever had at this point in Survivor. They'll never go above 20 for the U.S. So this is they finally have reached their max of people in a season. crazy opening. It's considered one of the best seasons.
Oh, we didn't talk about the Jeff and the closing ceremony or the.
Oh, how did we almost forget? I hope if you're still listening, that you have not seen Jeff leave Final Tribal and deliver the votes, you have to watch it right now. I hope it's on YouTube. You have to watch it. I know Idled Out kind of covered it in one of his videos. So I did. When we went to watch this, I'm like, is this the season where he does this? Jeff leaves Final Tribal, and what does he do? What's the first thing he does, Mary?
I mean, he gets out his machete and hacks his way through the jungle.
Is the same machete the one that Rory had?
I have no idea. Probably not.
So here's how it plays out. So it's nighttime. It's Final Tribal. Jeff's like, okay, I'm going to bring the votes back to America so we can read them. Mm-hmm. He brings up machete, chops through the forest. We cut. It's now the next morning. Jeff is still chopping his way through the forest. And then he finally reaches an airfield, like an open airfield. Right. And there's an airplane just waiting there for him. Apparently, he couldn't get a ride there, I guess. He had to machete his way through the forest. He gets in the airplane.
Has to save money
and
somewhere.
You're like, okay, they're going to fly to Los Angeles or New York, wherever this is happening at. And they're going to deliver the votes. No. Jeff's like...
in this tiny little plane, by the way.
Yeah, this is like a little Cessna, maybe. And he's like, this is my stop. And then he like puts on a whole suit. Puts on he secures the tribal the urn and like skydives out of the airplane. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how many times do they have to shoot this to get these shots? I'm guessing twice. Could be wrong.
I really think Jeff only had to do it once because you can't tell who it is in some shots.
In the wider shots, possibly. So anyways, Jeff skydives with the tribe votes down to the ground. By the way, exactly where a motorcycle is, waiting for him, with the perfect thing in the back to put the tribal urn on so he can lock it in place. Mm-hmm. Mind you, how is the lid staying on? That doesn't have anything to secure it. I guess the lid's just like sealed tight.
I'm sure.
Like, how does the lid not come off?
I'm sure it was sealed somewhere.
I obviously, by the way, anyone listening,
or maybe it was a fake
that this is all for show, and he didn't really. So, anyways, then he on his motorcycle drives to New York. And so we have gone from night to morning to day.
He never drove to New York.
On his bicycle. Yeah. On his motorcycle.
He drove to New York in his motorcycle?
On his motorcycle.
I thought it was all still in Hollywood.
Or wherever. LA and New York. No, on his motorcycle.
Yeah, in LA. He didn't drive across the country because he definitely landed in LA.
My bad. He landed in LA and he motorcycles his way there. But it's nighttime again. So we're implying that Jeff has not slept.
For 24 hours.
For at least 24 hours.
He could have napped in the plane.
I guess. The plane ride didn't look that long. And he was like in the front seat. It doesn't look like a very nappable place, is all I'm saying. And he delivers the votes. And it's just like, this happened. This thing. It's definitely on par with Jeff riding the jet ski in Amazon. Yeah. Which one's better, jet ski or this?
You know, honestly, I'd really like the jet ski.
Just implying that he jet skied the entire way.
That is more ridiculous to me. So I think that one is more memorable.
This one is more highly produced.
Was like probable. I mean, you get on a plane and you fly to Hollywood, and he jumped out of a plane. I mean, that was cool. I just like the image of him on a jet ski all the way from.
And he has to stop at the Statue of Liberty and take a moment of silence.
Like the heroic pose.
The heroic pose, yes.
No, it was up there in definitely up there in closing.
I don't think it ever gets crazier than this though. From my recollection, I think
sad. Jeff gets old and he doesn't want to do it anymore.
I just think it's kind of like silly and it gets joked about, and it is one of the things I like about Survivor. But I think Guatemala has the only other one that has an interesting travel experience. But this and the jet ski are like the most infamous examples of Jeff bringing the votes. And we watched it and I was like, oh, it is this season. It was just great. It's just great. You don't even have to watch the whole season.
No, yeah, just go watch
watch the very end of Final Tribal where he takes the votes and does this, and you're just like, I don't know, it's just great. So
it's pretty epic.
So anyways, that's Survivor Vanuatu. Next season Survivor Palau. So consider one of the best seasons, and I'm not spoiling anything, but
good.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since it aired, with the exception of the first half. I had to rewatch the first half for a video I did for the patrons, but from the first half I saw, it was really good. So it'll be very interesting. Very interesting. The Survivor auction comes back next season. I was actually kind of surprised it wasn't here in Vanuatu. Yeah, they do. There's some good things next season. So, yep.
That's exciting.
So, you have anything else?
Nope.
All right, cool. Well, everyone, thank you for listening. Just a reminder, if you got this far, that Survivor Vanuatu videos are just around the corner. And I'm super excited about them. We got 5 story videos. One of them is definitely Chris. So as always, the winner
Obviously.
always gets one. Well, people ask me, we always get new subscribers. They don't know. So I got to tell them. All right. Well, everyone, thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.